167. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is presently 10:09 in the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. It's the 22nd of March, heading into the end of March here. April, May, and June. May and June is where exam season really kicks in for those students doing the more significant exams like the CXCs and KEEPs and all of that out there. But SEA is already out of the way. The youth them free. The youth them could chill till September. When they see, they won't see in September what school they're going to, but when they end up in big school. Big up to all the youths who wrote that SEA exam. You are not supposed to be on TikTok if you wrote SEA. If you wrote SEA and you are on TikTok, no. Be gone. Go read a book. Go pick up a book, young lad or lass. Yeah, big them up. Anyway, today we're talking politics. At least we're starting talking politics. So once you're on the inside, hit that like button, double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button there. And you can do it as many times as you like. You know, allow the algorithm to know this is really, really good stuff. So send it out to more people and more people and more people. That's the idea. So hit that like button as many times as you'd like. If you are looking at this live on YouTube, you hit that like button too. If you are looking at it and repeat on YouTube, you can still hit that like button. Tell me what you think. Drop a comment. I'd like to hear your views. As per usual, this has been brought to you by Mindful Education. So if you all are looking for some learning pods, we offer learning pods for all learning stages. We do this in learning stages from preschool go all the way up to CXC. Learning pods are homeschool style, homeschool guide class, geared classes with small classes, 6 students no more, and you get that comfort in education. So feel free to hit us up. We also offer homeschooling services and private tutoring for most CXC and CAPE subjects. So if you're interested, be sure to hit us up. But today we're talking politics, as I said. It seems like some of the fellow politicians on the UNC side they're gearing at Tantikam's seat. They're gearing at a throne. They're saying that they think if they are to see the light of day in the political landscape come next election, the Tanti needs to leave. That's what they're saying. Let's jump in over there and see it. Kamala, call the internal election or we will lose again. Member of Parliament for Mayor Rushton called a press conference today to speak, he said, on behalf of ordinary UNC members who want internal elections to be called when they are due in June of 2024. Flanked by UNC activist Victor Roberts and former local government chairman Henry Awong, Pare thank the brave and courageous UNC family who have joined me today as we stand firm and united in our convictions. The supporters gathered at the Couva Chamber of Commerce Hall. He said, come from all areas of our nation, including Shoguana, Couva, Sipara, Naparima, Princestown, St. Augustine, Sangre Grande, and my home constituency, Mearu. He said we are all united in a common cause. That is, we are demanding that the leadership of our party respect the voice of our members. He said, before I came here today, I got a call from a colleague. He said to me, Rushton, what you are doing is committing political suicide. I told him that may very well be the case. After today, I might very well be an outcast of our party, but the other option is that I remain silent. Good night, Fabian King. Yeah. Good night, good night. He said that recently the PNM had attempted to defer the holding of the local government election, and it was the UNC's legal intervention that gave citizens the opportunity to go to the polls. Sadly, it pains me to say that it appears that even within our beloved party, serious issues of institutional integrity, we are all united in a common cause. That is, we are demanding that the leadership of our party respect the voice of our members. Today, we are all making this public demand because we have a grave concern concerned that there's an attempt from the executive to devalue the UNC's internal elections by suggesting it is not necessary or even needed. You know, I mean, go Braves, sir. But I don't know if I think he would win, though. Like, for those of you who have listened enough to what I talk about and to my views on politics, you know, I think that the UNC needs some new life if they are to legitimately contest seats. I agree and I believe that, yes, but I don't know if Mr. Parry can win an internal election for the UNC. The last internal election, it wasn't like a close fight up, you know. It's not like there's a major swing inside of the UNC that allows an incoming person to say, yeah, that's my constituency that I'm going to build. That's how I'll take over this party. There isn't really one of those. So to myself, I'm wondering, okay, you're demanding the call for internal elections. You're risking your political future by calling for these internal elections. Are you sure you're going to win? I'd like to know, I'm curious to know, who told Mr. Parry what that made him believe this is the time for him? It kind of reminds me, if you're into that kind of politics, that global kind of politics, it kind of reminds me of the Ron DeSantis move over in the United States, where the Florida governor made an attempt to become the Republican candidate for president. And to do so, he had to go past one Donald Buzzsaw Trump. Someone you don't tackle easily and beat in elections. He's not an easy person to beat in elections, at least not front on. The person who beat him in elections, Mr. Biden, never really contested the elections. He basically sat it out and won on default. Mr. DeSantis ran in there quickly, and he got himself chewed up. I'm wondering if Mr. Parry is looking to make a similar move. Osmano says, is it that she thinks she's best to lead the party, or that a suitable successor is yet to be? You know, I don't know if many politicians think of it so clearly, because regularly when politicians come to the end of their career, it seems like they're not sure how to jump off. You know, I don't know if any of you remember your experiences in learning how to ride and now riding bikes and that kind of stuff. And you know, sometimes when you're now learning how to ride and it comes time to stopping is a problem. Like, how do I jump off this bike? How do I stop this and actually jump off? It seems like many politicians, they get that same issue around the end of their career. They're not sure how to make that dismount. So I don't know if I think she is actually in belief that she's the best to lead. I don't know if she actually thinks it through like that. But as I regularly see, in order for someone to be a politician in the first place, they have to like power to a certain extent. You have to believe that you are somehow nominated best person to lead in order to go up for political office. So it's not hard to see that a politician who has been a politician all their life believes and will always believe that they are the best person to hold the office. I guess that's why they're in politics. Is there anyone in politics that doesn't want power? I just don't see that being a realistic thing. If you're in politics, I think you want power. That's what politicians want. That's why they end up there. Paris said that despite the fact that no general election has been called, a bogus narrative is being pushed by our leadership that says we cannot have our internal elections because there's a general election soon. That is not acceptable. Paris said talk of a general election by the leadership is simply a ruse intended to suppress the voice of the membership. He said, I want to remind the leadership of our party that the most important persons in the UNC is not the political leader, nor is it the members of parliament or even senators. The most important persons in the UNC are the ordinary members. It will mean that the leadership of our party will continue to fail the thousands of members by denying them their right to have their voices heard. If these UNC internal elections are not held, it will mean the leadership of our party will continue to be unprepared, rudderless, and weak. Wow. Wow. Well, Mr. Parry basically said that, he's not going up under the Kamla Prasad Bissessa ticket anymore because those are kind of fighting words politically. Politically, I'm talking about. Those are fighting words politically. I don't see him saying things like that and making his way back into good graces easily. But as I was saying, I would like to hear who said what. I don't believe this is Mr. Parry of his own doing, and no insult or shade meant to the man. I don't want to belittle the man's character or verve or anything like that, but Mr. Parry, by and large, isn't a juggernaut on the Trinidad political scene. And he isn't a spring chicken either. He isn't like a really young guy. So for someone that has been around for a while to seemingly all of a sudden develop a ferocious sense of ambition, you could wonder if there's someone behind the scenes attempting to push a backing, and that's why he believes that all he needs is the opportunity for an internal election. This is what I'm wondering. I don't know any of this to be factual. I'm just wondering about it because it's curious to me. I want to know what spurred on this move. What made him believe that this was his time to make this move politically? And like I see that he says it's about the people and the people's voice and all of that, but I just I don't really buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy that. I don't ever buy that politicians do what they do just for the people. Sorry, I don't find myself to ever have been that gullible. But it's not just Mr. Parry. NACTA. Kamla must step aside before election. Opposition leader Kamla Prasad Bissessa must step aside as UNC political leader before next year's general election to give the party a better chance of winning it. The UNC's probability of taking any seats away from the PNM is low. The friction between the UNC and its local government election partner, the National Transformation Alliance, is also hurting the party's chances of electoral victory in 2025. These were some of the findings of a North American Caribbean Teachers Association poll that was released on Friday. The poll was based on interviews with 540 individuals representing the demographics of the nation spread across the so-called safe and marginal constituencies. The poll found the Prime Minister and Prasad Bissessa both have very low approval and very high disapproval ratings. But NACTA said Dr. Rowley fares better in terms of approval with traditional PNM supporters compared to Prasad Bissessa's support among traditional UNC voters. Fireflame says best they give Saddam the chair and done. Now, if you were thinking as a forward-thinking party and you were trying to establish something for the future, that may have made sense. I do not know if Saddam is married and has a family. If he's not yet married, if he doesn't yet have children, then no, that's a bad idea. It won't work. But if he's a young man but married with children, that might. But parties don't function like that. It's not like the leadership of the UNC is necessarily thinking about the future longevity of the United National Congress as a party. No, they're mostly thinking about their own benefit. The findings also reveal neither party has attracted significant cross-racial support, but the PNM has attracted more Indo-Trinidadians than the UNC has attracted Afro and mixed Trinidadians. I think the polls generally in Trinidad tell this story pretty clearly. Indo-Trinidadians don't see the UNC returning to office, with the result that many party supporters, including financiers, have been gravitating towards and embracing the PNM. Okay. Interesting. So there seems to be some kind of statistical evidence now highlighting what many people have been pointing at, suggesting that the United National Congress will not fare well in an upcoming election if they continue with the same status quo. And to me, that seems self-evident. It seems like a plain logical series of conclusions. You've lost before against the same opposition. Opponent, not opposition, opponent. It's the same crowd of people. I don't see what has changed to make you win. I just don't. But maybe Mrs. Prasad Bisesa has privy to some knowledge that we don't. Maybe she knows of a different constituency that is coming out to vote in their numbers in 2025 that's going to catch everyone by surprise. No one is going to see it coming. Maybe that's the info that Prasad Bisesa has that no one else seems to know. Jumping into another segment here on a bit of crime, but from another angle. Political scientists laments gang culture, Gen Z behavior in TNT. With escalating gang violence and the Gen Z population seeking quick and easy cash, political scientist Dr. Indira Ramprasad says there is a critical need for criminal justice reform in TNT. I worry when I see things like this. Now, I agree. I think the current criminal justice system that is in Trinidad and Tobago is insufficient. It doesn't work, ideally. But when you say reform, I am concerned what direction you're talking about. Because regularly around the world, when you look around the world and you see the educated folk, those with the bachelors and masters and PhDs, and they're talking about criminal justice reform, it regularly goes in a kind of criminal friendly direction. I hope that's not the direction that our political scientist is speaking about. Addressing the University of the West Indies Crime Symposium titled Simulating Solutions, Combating Crime and Criminality in Trinidad and Tobago, Ramprasad yesterday said government must bring robust legislation. She said while there is legislation to help fight crime, there is inadequate enforcement. With joblessness and job satisfaction concerns, Ramprasad revealed issues in the tertiary education system which lead to some of the issues. Ramprasad said the Gen Z culture produces entitled, uncaring and selfish behaviors. She said even at UE, some students are not reading or watching television and are unaware of current affairs or what to do for exams. Instead, she claimed they spent most of their time on their phones, some even engaging in pornography. Dr. Ramprasad come out for them. But she's not totally wrong. She's not totally wrong. And I do see a kind of apathy in the Gen Z generation. And I think many of the things that we did to the generation, we're finding out now were bad ideas. Parents now are backtracking. They're running as far and fast away from the tabs and the phones and the screens from as young as possible. But there's already been a generation grown on that. Many teenagers now, who would be teens now, would have had tabs as children. They would have had tabs as children. They would have had screens from as young as possible. So much of what filled their entertainment was one-on-one engrossed inside a screen with algorithmic programming directed directly at your interests. So then obviously your interpersonal ability and socialization would be on a low level. And tabs and that engrossed one-on-one algorithmic directed entertainment isn't how you learn local information, because the internet isn't specialized for maximizing your local knowledge. So of course these young people are ignorant. They're ignorant, and not only are they ignorant, they don't care. They don't know, and they don't care to know. Like, I mean, not to say that everyone in the millennial generation would have known who all of their ministers were, but I feel like with a reasonable amount of certainty, a good bit of people back in the 2000s, the 90s, could have said who the ministers were. Who was the minister of that? Who was the minister of that? Who was the attorney general? Go ask a Gen Z young person, who is the attorney general? Bear in mind, the attorney general, good night, Adriel Robinson. The attorney general is one of the two roles needed to form the cabinet. And go ask them if they know who the attorney general is. She quoted statistics from the TTPS for this country, which showed there were 30,640 crimes between 2015 to 2022, buoyed by murder tolls of 605 in 2022, 555 in 23. Noting that Professor Selwyn Ryan's report showed that cocaine did not originate in the Caribbean, as it does not have the climate to grow coca plants, she recalled that the Southern Division Police found 186 million in cocaine in sea just a few weeks ago. Prasad said authorities usually find shipments in homes, shipping containers, and ensures the drug business is big money. We must understand the law. Drug money has an estimated value of US $650 billion, 30% of the overall global illicit economy. It also links other crimes such as money laundering and terror financing. She explained that this wave of gangsterism has links to violence, sex crimes, domestic violence, and maltreatment of children by parents. She said citizens suffer from drug addiction, drug-related violence, and corruption in law enforcement and public officials. While transnational organized crime groups dominate this illicit industry, she said vulnerable youths execute the operations, and that's the reality. Correct. Hotep, correct. But I don't presume you are a teenager. Commissioner of Police gets deadline for decision on 17 FUL applications. While the country seems headed down that haywire, chaotic, violent direction, we have a commissioner of police who seems to be doing exactly the job that the government put her there to do. Make sure citizens don't get weapons. Police Commissioner Earl Howard Christopher has been given until July 22nd to decide on 17 firearm user licenses applications which have been pending for 2 years or more. Two years or more. And you see, the cruel thing in this is the limbo of it. Like, you wouldn't even bother to tell the people no. You leave them in limbo. It's neither yes, neither no. That way there's no accountability for anything. We're just in limbo here. Yes, 2 years, Osmanos. 2 years. But Pastor Inarima could have gotten his, but now he lost it. Pastor loses SRP rank. Brown no longer member of SSA, says top cop. Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown has been stripped of his Special Reserve Police Officer status in the TTPS. This was confirmed by the commissioner. At the time, Christopher was responding to questions posed to her by members of the media surrounding Brown and the SSA. Mr. Brown is no longer a Special Reserve Officer. His appointment was requested by the SSA. He no longer being a member of the SSA, there is no longer any reason for him to maintain his status as an SRP officer, Christopher said. Is that the way those things work? Is it that when they don't have need for you anymore, you are removed? Or is it that once you are one, there needs to be just cause to remove you? If you're telling me the commissioner could just be, as it were, deputizing SRPs and undeputizing them on whims and fancies like that, does that make sense? What one has to do with the other? I'm not sure what you're talking about, Rooney. Like, don't you need just cause to remove someone if that's the case? I mean, I don't know. SRP being a special reserve unit, maybe there doesn't need to be any just cause and they could do it just like that, but SRP's contract, so they could just cancel your contract because they didn't say it wasn't renewed. They said it was removed. 124 murders, detection rate at 9%. Cop says police in control though. On the heels of last weekend's murder spree, which saw 10 homicides recorded between Friday and Monday, police commissioner says the TTPS is in control. Fair not, people. Fair not. Guys in broad daylight drive up and shoot 9 people. 10 murders in a weekend in a 1.3 million population, but fair not. The police have this in control. Now, as I regularly say with these things, Adriel, that's exactly the question. I feel like sometimes the police and politicians and stuff, like, they don't fully comprehend what they're saying when they say things like this. If we have 10 murders in a weekend, and you're telling me the people that are supposed to be enforcing the laws have this under control, then you're telling me that the 10 murders for the weekend is exactly what you wanted to happen. No, because if something is under your control, then what is happening only because you want it to happen. Like for those of us who play a little football, you know a little sweat. If somebody say the ball is under your control, you control the ball. That means you're doing what you want to do with the ball. The ball is moving in the direction and behaving in the manner that you want it to behave. Okay. So if the police have this in control, is the crime situation behaving exactly how the police want it to behave? She made the assertion while speaking at the police media briefing on Thursday. Harewood Christopher made the comment in light of what she described as a surge in murders through Trinidad and Tobago, which she said has fueled the widespread fear and anxiety in our community. We want to assure the public that the police, we are in control. We are able to control the increase in the violent crime. If you're able to control the increase, why is it still increasing? If you're able to control the increase, how is it that we have been in a continual increasing trend for the last decade? Where's the proof that you're able to control this? She attributed the problem to the prevalence of drugs and guns, but noted that the police had seized more than 100 guns for the year already and almost 3,000 in the last 4 years. I keep saying this is pointless. She goes on to list these numbers. For this year already, we have recovered 117 weapons. Over the past 4 years, we would have recovered 2,840 firearms, with 84,373 rounds of assorted ammunition. For the year so far, we have recovered in addition to the 117 weapons, 1,430 rounds of ammunition. And why do we care? Why do we care? What is listing the number of guns seized doing for us? Like, the number of guns seized, this is an incomplete equation. The only way this number could be of any relevance to anybody is if you tell us the number of guns that are coming in. If we know the number of guns that are coming in, and we know the number of guns that are being seized, so we know, okay, they say they seized 117 guns, and in that time period only 50 guns came in. So we understand that the cache of guns, the load of guns, is decreasing. But if you're telling me you seize, I'm trying to get the number of guns they seize for the year. 124. Okay, let me use for the year so far. 3 months of the year so far, you seize 124 guns. 117, sorry. What if for the year so far 1,000 guns came in? Then how relevant is it that you seized 117 guns? What's the point of this number to the population? If 1,000 guns came in and you seized 117, then you're wasting time. It's best you give away the 117 you seized because it's inconsequential. Because does it seem like Men are struggling to get guns and ammunition in Trinidad right now. When you look at the murders, when they shoot somebody in Trinidad these days, like, I am not that old, but I lived through consciously the upsurge in gun violence in Trinidad. I remember a murder in the 90s is somebody was shot 3 times. That's a murder. But these days is an attempted murder. They even kill the person, they just attempt, and 50 shots. Does that seem like people struggling to get ammunition? And we're boasting about weapons seized, as if we know how many weapons came in. What's the point? Willie Bang says, I'm just wondering if people still going back and vote for this current regime on the premise of race. Well, as we just read an article with a bit of research on that same topic on race, the findings of the study revealed neither party has attracted significant cross-racial support, but the PNM has attracted more Indo-Trinidadians than the UNC has attracted Afro and mixed Trinidadians. So if you're saying people are voting according to race, one party is more so racially homogeneous. And I don't find this to be a surprising thing in Trinidad and Tobago. Like, I mean, if you're paying attention to Trinidad and Tobago, you know that one party is significantly more monolithic in terms of the racial line. That's a known thing. That's a known thing. And the voting for PNM, I don't know if I would say that the people that go back to vote for PNM are necessarily doing it under a racial line, but they're doing it under a line of where they're taught that you should fear anyone else governing this country. Those other people don't know how to govern this country. Those low-class wildlings from Southland, they don't know how to govern this country. And from the moment they get in here, they're going to steal everything and run away with it. And that's a convincing impetus for a large section of the country. Jumping into another segment there, very interesting piece, a very interesting article that I stumbled across there, a bit of legal news. Legal aid wins victory for single mother of 5. The Legal Aid and Advisory Authority has secured a victory for a homeowner in Toko who was facing a threat of eviction, of her home being demolished. Your legal aid working in Trinidad, boy. Albrasco Limited alleged the homeowner Laura Ramdeen was squatting on their lands, but on March 19th, its attorney withdrew a trespass claim after a land survey paid for by the legal aid attorneys out of his own pocket showed her home was not on the company's land. On Tuesday, Justice Robin Mohammed allowed Albrasco's attorneys to discontinue the claim against Ramdeen and ordered the company to pay her legal costs. Ramdeen was full of praise for the LAA's counsel Javier Forrester and the authority. Without them, I would have lost my home. The judge referred her to the Legal Aid Association in 2021 when the claim against her was filed. Albrasco sought a court order for her to vacate the land and to demolish her house. The mother of 5 said when she appeared in court, she did not have money to pay for a lawyer as she was struggling to save to repair her leaking roof. Since she could not properly defend herself, the judge suggested she seek the assistance of legal aid. She went to legal aid and got someone. In court, in submissions, Forrester argued that the company was mistaken about the boundaries of its property. Based on landmarks found in a 1918 survey plan, a cadastral map, and photos of Ramdeen's home. He also argued that there was a risk of injustice if Ramdeen's home was demolished in the absence of a survey to prove ownership of the land. Now, here's a strange thing to me with this whole story. You're telling me that a company, very likely $1 million company, is unable to do its own land surveying to pick up this error? Is that what you're telling me? Are you telling me that they made a mistake and they were going to court to punish a poor single mother of 5 over their mistake? Okay. Okay. They maybe hoped she'd just leave. Well, it's not hope she'd just leave. They were forcing her to leave. The woman couldn't afford an attorney and they carried her to court. What do you think they were aiming to do? If the legal aid attorney was one who just didn't care about it, you know, he was just doing his duty and allowed the paperwork to file, and then you do as you do. And he didn't go through all the trouble of paying out of his own pocket for a survey. What would have been a position? What would have been a position? And on note of that, with housing, property tax confusion, imagine you're the owner of a wooden house with a patina of moss. It stands on crumbling foundations. Galvanized sheets cover openings where wood planks have rotted through. Yet, you open a property tax valuation notice assessing the annual rental value of your barely standing assembly of wood rot and tetanus, fastened together solely by termites holding hands in prayer under the floorboards, at $96,264 a year. From the studios that brought you chaos with Venezuela migrant registration, utter pandemonium during the pandemic of the online vaccination registration, and other feats of incomparable incompetence, here comes the property tax omnishambles. Stories like the above are coming out of the woodwork. Impossible valuations following no discernible method of calculation. The rental value of a property seems to be very much in the eye of the beholder, but many homeowners are claiming their properties haven't been beheld. With neither sight nor sound of the mythical field assessors, citizens getting valuations are wondering how the figures were arrived at. Many argue they bear no reference to information in their submitted forms. You see this annual rental business? Yeah, Adriel, yeah. Paulo has a way with words. Paulo has a way with words. I laughed too when I read it. That's why I had to bring it here. this annual rental business is causing bacchanal. I spoke about this before in reference to the Donald Trump case over in the United States in New York, where they are prosecuting him on fraud based on the valuations that he did on properties he owned. Here's the thing, those valuations are used as collateral to borrow against. So they're saying that he increased, good night Splinter Cell, they're saying that he falsely increased the valuation of his property, allowing him to get bigger loans from the banks, committing fraud against the banks. The strange thing with that whole case is the banks are not complaining. The banks say, we are fine with it, we didn't have a problem with this valuation and all of that and all of that. And real estate people are saying that's the way the business is done, but you know, there's a personal grouse in the matter. But this in the Trinidad case, I wonder, he's a master of that trust and belief. Well, he is a real estate tycoon. That's what real estate tycoons do. There's the one from Shark Tank, I forgot his name, who's also a real estate tycoon. He's up and down the news media, every network that would take him, complaining and cussing about this issue, because he's saying this is going to ruin the real estate and business market in New York and perhaps by extension the United States, because it's killing the trust that business people would have in the legal system. You're saying he committed fraud based on a common business practice, and then you're saying within 30 days he must pay a bond that is the world record bond you have never charged for anything else, and no bond insurance is going to upfront that amount of money, and then you are going to seize his assets based on that unprecedented bond. That seems like insanity. It seems like some old communist country kind of behavior. That's why people are very upset. Business people are very upset about that. But in the Trinidad and Tobago context, I wonder if the government gives you an annual rental value for your property, would you be able to carry that ARV to the bank to get a mortgage based on the collateral using the government's ARV? Or will the bank send their own valuators to re-evaluate your property and determine the collateral as the bank sees it? Because I find if I can't go to the bank with it, you know the statement, you could take that to the bank. If I can't take it to the bank, then it's worthless. If it is you telling me my property's ARV is $100,000 per year, then I should be able to take that to the bank and tell the bank, listen, bank, I have $100,000 per year rental property. What's the size of loan I could get with this as collateral? And they're supposed to take that valuation as law, because it is, basically. Will they? I'm asking this question kind of knowing the answer. Banks don't play with their money like that. Oh, the bank have their own qualified evaluators. Oh. So the evaluators from the government aren't qualified? Are you telling me that they're evaluating people's property and they aren't qualified? What's going on? The bank valuation will be less. Look at that. Look at that. You know what I think they should do with some of these things? And these are the things that really marvel me with government and how government functions. This is what marvels me. Government outsources and contracts things that they have all the workers and expertise to do. And then they try to do internally the things that would always make trouble if you try to do them internally. There are many reputable evaluators evaluating companies in Trinidad and Tobago, That's a common field of business in this country. You could have subcontracted as the government, because this is something the government does regularly. Subcontract. For $1 million subcontracts is not a strange thing for the government. Why didn't you contract out the valuation? You see, that way, private companies have their reputation hinged on the veracity of these valuations. When I know Splinter Cell and Company valuators are the people who gave my ARV, if when I carry it to the bank says this isn't worth it, then Splinter Cell and Company loses value as evaluators. Gotcha, mosquito. They lose value as evaluators. But if you do it internally, and you say that in the ministry we have our own valuators, and nobody knows who these people are, when they pass, what they do, when you get your valuation, you have nobody to blame. Okay, you'll blame the government, but I mean, everybody always blames the government. So what? As if that bothers the government. What do the authorities see that homeowners do not? The annual rental value is determined by the Board of Inland Revenue and is the annual rent which a property is likely, you see that word, right? Which a property is likely to attract, having regard to the purpose for which the land is actually used, occupied, or tenanted, or where it is not used, occupied, or tenanted, having regard to the purpose for which it is reasonably suitable. We haven't been given an explanation of the criteria used to determine what rent a property is likely to attract. Moreover, who or what AI model weighs the purpose for which a property is reasonably suitable? The government brays that property tax objectors are either agents of duplicitous opposition or denizens of the upper crust lounging in $1 million homes, being fed foie gras and fanned by eunuchs. Getting that valuation in your private home is the most apolitical of events. You feel it in your private pants regardless of your political jersey. Still, the PM accused the opposition of pandering to every nonsense, but a knee-jerk reduction of 3% to 2% in the property tax bill isn't pandering. Apropos of opposition pot clanging, the PP could have repealed the tax when it rode the tax wave into office in 2010. It didn't. At any rate, these pot and kettle conversations offer no further illumination over an unwieldy system. Most reasonable people understand that the property tax must be paid. It isn't without precedent. Property taxes apply in the US, where many citizens have relatives and friends. Yada yada yada. However, here at home, where the valuation is based on the perceived rentable value, how does the government know it isn't affixing an estimate in some instances to a burned out Piper shelter? He went on to get a bit into that, but agreed. I don't see how the government plausibly moves forward with attempting to tax people on an opaque system that nobody understands. If nobody understands how you evaluate how much tax they should be paying, people aren't going to be motivated to pay this tax. It's just a number you pulled out of thin air to these people. It means nothing. And it's interesting. The government's ARV. Good night, Crimac. Can the government's ARV then be used as a recommended rental price? if the government's ARV is so correct, can it be used as a recommended rental price? So now, all properties in Trinidad are rented based on the value the government puts on it. Because if I go to rent a property and I look at the ARV and they tell me that their rent is higher than the cost the government put on it, that doesn't make sense. I'm paying it. And then if I'm the property owner, I cannot possibly reasonably be expected to rent my home for a lower price than the government tells me I must pay taxes on. And now, if the government's ARV prices are inflated, what effect is that going to have on the rental market? An illegal Spanish boy, yes, he got some millions. He got some millions for illegal detention. I hate that whole business, to be very honest with you. I hate the entire series of events and all of that. I hate it. I despise it. I understand fully why in some of the larger countries there are significant anti-immigrant groups and sentiments, because it seems kind of ridiculous to me that I'm living in a country here, I'm paying taxes, we're struggling trying to make it as a country, and then people are sneaking into our country, breaking the law by just their very entry into the country is a crime, and then turning around and suing the state and making millions of dollars for missteps in handling them while they commit a crime. Like, if a police tap you while they're arresting you in Trinidad and Tobago as a Trinidadian citizen, you aren't going to get $2.4 million. Like, argue against those things, you understand why some people don't like the democratic systems either. They don't like the democratic systems, you know. Give me a king. Let me go back. Let me go to Qatar. Let me get a king that could come and tell these judges that saying nonsense like this, get out. You judge that say we should pay them 2.4, go to jail. Go to jail. Go straight to jail. How dare you fleece a country for people breaking the law? It's a ridiculous thing to me. It's a ridiculous thing. The judges are at fault. Most of them work for the UN. I'm not surprised. A lot of the ruling class has the same kind of belief. It's similar. Similar things happen when you look at cases in the US, in Europe, where it seems like illegal immigrants have more rights than citizens in a country. That's a ridiculous thing. I don't care if it makes me sound kind of xenophobic. I really don't care, because I'm not. I'm really not. I'm happy when I see our Venezuelan neighbors prosper even in our country, but not at the expense of the taxpayer. Not at the expense of the taxpayer. I find that ridiculous. Those things, a misstep at best, you get an apology. You could get an official apology stamped with the Trinidad and Tobago coat of arms, but you don't get a cent. The taxpayer is always covering for incompetent government mishandling. Yeah, but you see, Adriel Robinson, when you read these cases and you read these things, you understand it's not always just a matter of incompetence. The nature of these laws is that nearly in any handling of any issue, there's always a lawsuit that is somehow possible. So it's not just incompetence, it's the nature of the system. It's the nature of the system. And the nature of, to me, writing laws that are copy and pasted from foreign. So many of these laws that we are transgressing, I think now that is costing us millions. I don't think that when these laws were passed, our parliament really had a focus on wondering if these laws are pertinent to Trinidad and Tobago. I think they just did it because it made them look good. We signed on to refugee protections and immigrant protections, etc., 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 thinking we would never actually have to face these problems. But here we are. But here we are. Kevin says there has to be some kind of control for that. It can't be the judiciary is totally sacrosanct. Well, Kevin, the problem we have is the Privy Council, if we're being honest there. That's the problem. Our judiciary remains sacrosanct once we have the Privy Council. So our judges could rail on our parliament and could rail on everyone in the country, because the most you could do is take them to the Privy Council. So they are under, as it were, the protections of the Privy Council. They could say and do nearly anything they want, and the most you might get is the Privy Council saying, nah, we don't agree with that ruling. That's why some people don't like that idea of the Privy Council. The example I regularly point out is El Salvador, where we look at the crime situation that they basically solved. They solved it by arresting a lot of people, and they were able to arrest all those people because they could have controlled the courts. If we have a leader today, tomorrow, a leader comes in and wants to arrest all the gang members. They want to go into the gang strongholds. We know all of the locations. They plan to go in, and all of the known names, they're arresting all of them and their lieutenants. We aren't looking for evidence and all of this. We, the country, know that these men doing this thing. We decide we're going to arrest them. We don't need probable cause, actually. You know, by the way, just by the way, as a country, we could decide that we don't need probable cause. We could decide our laws are that when we deem you're guilty, and we go and grab you. So we could choose that. Except that as it stands, if you do that, those men will hire lawyers, sue you to our courts. Our courts might give them exactly what they want, but even if our courts don't, they go to the Privy Council. Now, if the top court of the land was in the land and you got a popular leader in, the popular leader oftentimes, because if the court was in the land, if the top court was the court in the land, there's a way for the politicians to influence that court. That's just the reality. Now, that's one of the reasons some people don't want the top court in the land, because they don't want it to have that internal influence. But there's benefit to the internal influence. If there's a legitimate populist uprising against the crime situation, and the top court of the land is in the land, and there are justices there saying, okay, this popular leader that has the support of 80% of the population wants to arrest the criminals and stop the murder rate. But we 9 justices, let's just mimic the Supreme Court in the US, we 9 justices say this isn't going to happen. Those 9 justices will start to fear for their life. Because if there's a popular sentiment in the country and you're ruling against that, you're looking to risk your life. But the Privy Council doesn't have to give a hoot about what sentiment pervades Trinidad and Tobago. It doesn't matter to them. We need a supermajority in the parliament to alter the judiciary and impose new legislation. Yeah, but that supermajority needs to be held by an intelligent person. Good luck with that. Hey! Anyway, people are tired. It was a long week. Let me look to wrap up. Any further questions or comments on the inside before I dive out? Or is that all for the week? Non-existing politics. Or just go with Pandy's idea of parliament. Russia under attack. Yep, I was browsing that. I was browsing that right before I started. I don't know. I'm hearing allegations. People believe that it's a kind of US something very likely. I don't know. I don't know. Who I'm seeing Islamic State claims responsibility as death toll rises. Well, for sure it's CIA. Where Islamic State come out from after all of this time? That's CIA, for sure, for sure, for sure. CIA thing for sure. Candace Owens got fired from Daily Wire. I feel sorry for her. No. I think she wanted to leave Daily Wire. I think she wanted to leave Daily Wire. She has been kind of flirting, fixing with leaving for a while now. She was running in a direction that inevitably would have resulted in that. That's kind of what she wanted. I think she wanted to place herself more on the edge of the political landscape, that kind of more Tucker Carlson position, and the Daily Wire wouldn't be a good launch off platform for that. So I don't think it's a surprise that she left. She's branching out, and I don't think it's about branching out. I think it's pretty simply about there's a lot in the US on that Israel issue. There's a lot on the right. There's a divide on the right on the Israel issue, the Israel-Gaza issue, and the cutting edge of the right-wing populist movement is basically anti-Israel because they are more pro-America. They want no foreign aid anywhere else. So they are pretty much anti-Israel. Now, the thing with that is they actually kind of form a unity with neo-Nazis. Guys who think that the mustache man from World War II, had a good idea. So you often find then neo-Nazi, white supremacist kind of rhetoric mixing in with the anti-Israel right-wing crowd. So Miss Owens has recently tapped into some of that audience, and Daily Wire would want nothing to do with that audience. Isn't Daily Wire owned by a Jewish person? Partially. But she wasn't. Well, she wasn't directly, but I think she understood that the direction of just asking questions that she was heading in was activating that group. You know what you could do? Go look at some of her recent videos and go look at the comments. Not the content of the video. Look at the comments. And you would see those guys who subscribed to Mustache Man's kind of belief were plentiful. They were plentiful. It attracts a certain kind of crowd. The online, they call themselves the Groypers. If you know who Nick Fuentes is, she actually had a conversation with Nick Fuentes, so you know that bacchanal is going to be thick. Curvon says communication can be very influential. I listened to speech from Mustache Guy. I understand why he was very skilled. People said he was very skilled. Yeah, and I always make that point. Like, it's the Germans weren't just mad people. Obviously, he had a point. It's not that his point was a good one. And in some of those things, Miss Owens even spoke about some of that talk and hearkened to things about World War II, and going down that road is just a sketchy road. That's why sometimes if you watch right-wing content on that side of the world, you see there are some people who stay clear of that entire issue. They stay clear of that entire issue because it's not that they want to be pro-Israel necessarily, but they understand that if you say certain things, there are certain crowds that you attract. So like, I recognized for a while when I made a good bit of content critiquing the government here on TikTok, I attracted a serious pro-UNC rabid crowd, until at a point in time where if I posted some videos, there was this kind of sycophant UNC crowd commenting. I don't like that, but it's something that you can cultivate. You can cultivate that. I know if I make certain videos on certain topics, it's going to attract a certain crowd. I don't even necessarily have to lie. I don't have to say the wrong thing. I don't have to say prejudicial things, but I know certain things will cultivate certain crowds. And I can lean into that. And I have a feeling that Miss Owens purposefully leaned into some of those things. And like when you see some of the things and they speak about something and then they're just like, well, I'm just asking questions, you know, I don't really know. I really don't know. And you know that this is a topic that has been discussed ad nauseum in the internet space, and you know that it's a topic where different groups have a different view on it. You understand that this person they're stirring up a crowd. That's what some people call the dog whistles, as it were. It's a whistle that only a certain group could hear. Now, I don't necessarily have a big problem with such things. I just think that people have to understand that certain groups have certain tendencies. Be careful the audience you cultivate, and the audience sways the speaker too. It's not just that the speaker has an influence on the audience has an influence on the speaker. So you be very careful the audience you attract. And they tell them, don't take my word for it, go research it yourself. Yeah. You know, like, listen. Let me see. What are the topics this week? If I want to cultivate a pro-UNC crowd, I'm going to talk about the property tax. And I'm going to talk not just about the property tax, but how the government's so wicked with this property tax that right with inflation they want to bring in the property tax when everything going up, and they want to raise their salaries, and then they want to bring in this property tax. Cultivate that, make a few videos on that. You know the direction it's headed in. Pro KFC boycott. Talk about how prices only raising, and the government don't know what to do. You know certain things cultivate audiences, and you know you could cultivate I could cultivate a PNM audience if I so desired to. Certain topics you keep pushing and you cultivate your audience. I'm aware of the psychological games they play and certain buzzwords they love to use. Yep. All sides do it. All sides. It's not exclusive to one team. It's the nature of the team sport. That's what they do. So I'm not surprised when I saw Owens separated, and I don't feel sorry for her because I think that's what she wanted. I think she wanted that freedom to be able to explore things down that avenue. Anyway, people, that's all I have for now. If you're educated, informed, or entertained, I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Live. Politics and religion, touchy subjects. Always, usually. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. As I said, did you address the Rushton party? Yeah, I did. We spoke about that first, Rushton first. And I was saying, to just touch on it, the conclusive kind of idea I had on that. I think he has backing from someone. Someone is behind the curtains there speaking, because I don't think he has the amount of political mileage on his own for that to be some kind of surefire attempt. He knows that he's risking his political future. He knows that he's very likely going to be skewered by the incumbent UNC. I feel like he has to have some kind of backing on the background that allows him to be this confident, because even if he's calling for the internal elections, I don't think he's going to win an internal elections just like that. Her people probably ready to pull the rug from under her. I somehow doubt it. But we'll see. Alright, people, I'll see you guys for the next Mindful Live, which will be Monday. Around that, we're trying to get back to that 9 time come Monday. So I'll see you guys then. Until then, people, I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained for the 3rd time. Stay safe, stay well, be well this weekend. Stay inside. Outside dangerous. Don't study them, people. Inside nice. Outside not nice. Stay inside. Behave yourself. Laters, people. Bye. Peace.